Jacob, peace be upon him, was the son of Isaac, peace be upon him. The name Jacob was likely given to him by his parents, but he's also known as Israel, a name given to him by God later on in his life. Israel essentially means God's prince, God's warrior, or God's soldier. But Israel can also be used to convey three different meanings. Number 1, Jacob himself was righteous and God-fearing. Number 2, Jacob's progeny was righteous and God-fearing. And number 3, it can be used to refer to any righteous, God-fearing person or people. Jacob had 12 sons. They were Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, Benjamin, the younger son of Rachel, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher, and Joseph, peace be upon him, the elder son of Rachel. Joseph, peace be upon him, was a prophet, and his story is about someone going from being a slave to chief financial minister of a whole country. Joseph, peace be upon him, had a special status in that his father was a prophet, his grandfather was a prophet, and his great-grandfather was a prophet. This is why he is called the noblest of men. Joseph's story starts with a dream, which the whole of his life is based around.
قال يوسف لأبيه يا أبت إني رأيت 11 كوكبا والشمس والقمر رأيتهم لي ساجدين.
This dream meant that Joseph's 11 brothers, represented by the stars, and his parents, represented by the sun and the moon, would be obedient to him, meaning they would come to live with him in the land where he had power. Joseph, peace be upon him, tells a dream to his father, Jacob, who informs him not to tell his brothers, as they will become jealous of him and plot against him. His father also tells him that God would teach him the interpretation of dreams.
نحن نقص عليك أحسن القصص بما أوحينا إليك هذا القرآن وإن كنت من قبله لمن الغافلين.
Due to this dream, the brothers of Joseph, peace be upon him, became jealous of Joseph, as he had become the centre of attention of their father. They felt they had a greater right to this love and care. They made a plan to kill Joseph or to cast him to a distant land. However, one of the brothers suggested to not kill Joseph, but to cast him into a well, where he would be picked up by some travellers. It should be noted that the brothers of Joseph were not criminals, but committed the deed after they were temporarily blinded by jealousy and hatred, but truly knew in their hearts that what they were about to do was wrong. So, the brothers of Joseph went to his father to persuade him to let Joseph, who was around 11 or 12 at the time, to come and play with them. Jacob said in reply, as stated in the Holy Quran, chapter 12, verse 14. He said, "It grieves me that you should take him away, and I fear lest the wolf should devour him while you are heedless of him." From this, it is clear Jacob knew the evil plot of his sons through divine revelation before them, as he hinted at the excuse the brothers would give for Joseph's disappearance.
The brothers carried out their malicious designs and put Joseph in the well. Most people would despair if they were in Joseph's situation and lose faith in God, but God revealed to Joseph that he would one day tell his brothers of what they did to him.
وأوحينا إليه لتنبئنهم بأمرهم هذا وهم لا يشعرون.
In the evening, the brothers came home and presented a shirt with fake blood as evidence of the death of Joseph to their father. They gave the excuse that while they were careless, Joseph had been devoured by a wolf. However, Jacob did not believe their false story, having already been told by God of their plan beforehand. A caravan passed by the well. While drawing water, they found Joseph, and in this way God saved him. The brothers of Joseph sold him to the caravan for a few dirhams, 20 pieces of silver, as we are told in the Bible. They pretended Joseph was a slave and sold him, not to get the money, but they feared if the caravan thought he was a free man, they would send Joseph back home. Joseph was taken from Palestine to Egypt, where he was sold to a man called Potiphar, a captain of the royal guard. He asked his wife to treat Joseph with respect, as he may be beneficial to him, or they may adopt him as a son. Joseph would stay in Egypt for quite some years. In the Holy Quran, chapter 12, verse 23, it says, "And when he, Joseph, attained his age of full strength, we granted him judgment and knowledge, and thus do we reward the doers of good." However, Potiphar's wife planned to seduce Joseph. Joseph resisted her temptation and attempted to hurry out of the room, but the woman hurried to him and grabbed Joseph's shirt from behind, tearing it. At the door was Potiphar, and his wife accused Joseph of evil. However, Joseph said it was her who had tried to seduce him. A witness from the household said that if his shirt was torn from the front, then Joseph had committed the evil, but if his shirt was torn from behind, then the woman had committed evil. Therefore, it was clear that his wife had tried to seduce Joseph, as his shirt had been torn from behind. Potiphar's conclusion is stated in the Holy Quran, chapter 12, verse 30, where it says, "O Joseph, turn away from this, and thou, O woman, ask forgiveness for thy sin. Certainly thou art of the guilty." However, this incident became known to local women, who began to gossip about the incident. In order to remove any doubts, the wife of Potiphar invited the woman for a dinner. At the dinner, the women were given knives, and Joseph, peace be upon him, was to serve food to them. It is said in the Talmud that oranges were served to the guests. The woman was so impressed by the appearance of Joseph that they cut their own hands in distraction. This action of cutting their hands can also be taken more metaphorically, meaning that the woman was surprised with wonder and amazement at Joseph. This is similar to the Arabic expression, biting the finger ends, which also indicates surprise. Such expressions are also used in English to indicate other emotions. Because they were so impressed at the angelic appearance of Joseph, they firmly believed that Joseph was the innocent one regarding the incident. During the dinner, the wife of Potiphar openly admitted that she was the one who tried to tempt Joseph into sin, and that Joseph preserved himself from the evil act. In the Holy Quran, chapter 12, verse 54, Joseph prayed to God. He said, "O my Lord, I would prefer prison to what they invite me, and unless thou turn away the guile from me, I shall incline towards them and be of the ignorant." God accepted his prayer by protecting Joseph from the deceitful woman and by strengthening Joseph's heart. The reputation of the wife of Potiphar continued to worsen, and the people thought that it would be better to put Joseph into prison, to shift public opinion to think that he was to blame instead. And so, as a result, Joseph was unjustly put into prison. At the prison, there were two other people. One was the butler for the king, and the other was the baker for the king. They had some dreams, which they related to Joseph, as he was held in very high esteem at prison for his piety. The dream of the cupbearer was that one man saw himself pressing wine. The dream of the baker was that he was carrying bread on his head, which birds were eating from. However, before Joseph began to explain to them the interpretation of the dreams, he first preached to them. He did this effectively by assuring them that he would finish his talk before mealtime, and did not bore or tire them with his preaching. This is also an example to us that we should preach in an interesting way, and at every opportunity we get to, just like Joseph did.
واتبعت ملة آبائي إبراهيم وإسحاق ويعقوب ما كان لنا أن نشرك بالله من شيء ذلك من فضل الله علينا وعلى الناس ولكن أكثر الناس لا يشكرون.
In this verse, Joseph explains to the two men that prophethood is not just a blessing for the prophet himself, but is a blessing for the whole of mankind, which also benefit from his teachings if they are followed.
يا صاحبي السجن أأرباب متفرقون خير أم الله الواحد القهار.
Joseph further tells the two men that although in this world it is generally thought that power is in numbers, but this rule doesn't apply to God, who is one and can dominate and control all things. Joseph then tells the two men the meaning of their dreams. The interpretation of the first dream was that the cupbearer would pour out wine for his lord, who was the king, to drink. The interpretation of the second dream would be that a baker would be crucified, so that birds will eat off his head. Joseph also said that both events were decreed. This is because if you were to have a dream, but you didn't tell anyone about it, then it may be in a state of suspension, where the dream may or may not come true. However, if the dream is related to others, and interpretation is asked for, then it is more likely to be fulfilled. That is why we should not relate evil dreams to others. Joseph also mentioned to the cupbearer, who was to pour out wine for his lord, to mention him when he would be released from prison. The cupbearer was released from prison, and was to work for the king. However, he forgot to mention Joseph to the king, as he was no longer under the good influence of Joseph, and was now in a satanic occupation. A few years passed, and then the king had a dream.
وقال الملك إني أرى 7 بقرات سمان يأكلهن 7 عجاف و7 سنبلات خضر وأخر يابسات يا أيها الملأ أفتوني في رؤياي إن كنتم للرؤيا تعبرون.
In this dream, the king had seen 7 fat cows being eaten by 7 thin cows, and 7 well-grown heads of corns being eaten by 7 withered heads of corn. It seemed that this dream was very vivid, and the king believed it was true, and so became fearful. The learned men of the court said they could not interpret such a dream. However, the wine carrier, who had been in prison with Joseph, was present at the time. He asked permission of the court to leave and seek the interpretation. The wine carrier left the court to go to Joseph, who he knew from past experience would interpret the dream. After relating the dream, Joseph gave the interpretation that the people will work hard on the land to grow crops for 7 years, but leave the crop in its ear, except a little which you will eat. What Joseph means by leaving the crop in its ear is to not take the crop out of its covering. For example, when growing corn, the people should only take a few kernels out of the corn to eat, but leave the rest of the kernels on the corn so the food can be preserved for a longer time. Then, after the 7 years of good harvest will become 7 years of poor harvest, where all the supplies stocked in the 7 years before would be mostly used up for food. A little will be saved in case the famine was prolonged or for seeds to grow more crops. After the 7 years of difficulty, rain will then come and bring relief to Egypt. Some people have objected to the Holy Quran as they say that the fertility of the soil in Egypt does not depend on rain, but the flooding of the River Nile. However, it should also be noted that the flooding of the River Nile depends on rain from the Nile sources in the uplands, like in Jinja in Uganda, one of the sources of the Nile. So ultimately, the fertility of the soil in Egypt does depend on the rain to flood the Nile. The wine carrier went back to the king and told him what Joseph had said. The king was convinced that Joseph was no ordinary man and told the wine carrier to bring Joseph to him. When the wine carrier went back to Joseph, Joseph told him that first he wanted a full inquiry of the case he was imprisoned for. Joseph wanted this inquiry for 3 reasons. Number 1, the king might want to know that he is innocent. Number 2, Potiphar, who had been kind to him, would know that Joseph was not faithless to him. Number 3, Joseph didn't want the inquiry to show off his own purity, but show other people that the plots of dishonest people do not succeed, and no one can tempt those into sin to whom God gives protection. In chapter 12, verse 52 of the Holy Quran, it says, "He, the king, said to the woman, 'What is the matter with you when you sought to seduce Joseph against his will?' They said, 'He kept away from sin for fear of Allah. We have known no evil against him.' The wife of the Aziz said, 'Now has the truth come to light. It was I who sought to seduce him against his will, and surely he is of the truthful.' When he questioned the woman in regard to the incident, the woman realized that from the way the king was questioned them, he believed that Joseph was a righteous man, and so they confessed the truth, but did so in a way that they didn't put the blame on the wife of Potiphar. But the wife of Potiphar was worried that after saying Joseph was completely innocent, the woman may put the blame on her. Therefore, she quickly confessed her guilt without being questioned in order to escape the greater shame of being exposed by the tongue of others, and also so to get some credit for telling the truth without being questioned.
وما أبرئ نفسي إن النفس لأمارة بالسوء إلا ما رحم ربي إن ربي غفور رحيم.
The king bestowed the position of honor to Joseph. He hints that he would give Joseph the honor that he actually deserved and which Potiphar failed to give him. It is likely the king offered the post of prime minister to Joseph, but Joseph preferred the position of financial minister in order to concentrate and running the department which was most closely related to the king's dream.